That's how it starts. The fever that turns good men cruel.
This means something. It's all some people have. It's all that gives them hope.
Do you know the oldest lie in America, Senator? The devils don't come from hell beneath us. They come from the sky.
He has the power to wipe out the entire human race. Tell me, do you bleed? You will.
Zelda 64 Recompiled got a great reception last year, but there's been a palpable sense of disappointment about the lack of ports since then. If the Recomp tool can generate source code in seconds, why haven't we been inundated and poked by a deluge of blocky polygons yet? One reason that the recomps are taking so long is that N64 development was very inconsistent, and different games may require different steps than others before the tool works. Some modders hit walls at early points in the process and needed additional help to move forward. But working the Recomp tool itself isn't really the holdup. Even when you have the full source code, it takes a long time to refine a port into a state that you'd be comfortable putting your name on. There's been confusion about these terms, so to clarify, a decompilation involves painstakingly reverse engineering the source code of a game into a readable modern language line by line, and often takes years. Once you have the code, you still don't have a game. Someone has to create a port that adapts that code, which was written for an ancient console, into something that will work on modern machines with a renderer that accurately reproduces the graphics. This is also a major undertaking, and is almost always done by a different team than the decomp, because the skills needed for one task don't always overlap with the other. Several decomps have been completed for years but still have no port because no one has taken up that part of the work. The recompilation tool combines these steps into one fast process. It automatically converts the code and links with the RT64 renderer for accurate graphics. It saves an immense amount of time and work, but it doesn't result in a fully polished, fully enhanced game. While yes, you can squat out a Superman 64 port in hours, as Wiseguy did, you probably wouldn't do the same with a game you actually care about. Goemon is the only other recomp with a public release, but there are over a dozen others that have yet to be announced for this and other reasons. The developers have given me permission to show a few of them off here. Smash Bros is in development and most enhancements already work. I can play badly, lose track of where I am, and fall off the edge of the stage at 240 FPS now. Kirby and the Crystal Shards is fully playable, but widescreen is still being worked on. The port includes analog input, which allows slower or faster movement than the original D-pad controls. Chameleon Choice is playable, but doesn't support frame rate or ratio enhancements yet. Quest 64 doesn't have controller pack saving, but is otherwise playable if we go by Switch Online rules. Dinosaur Planet is one of the more interesting recomps, as the developer intends to use the new modding system to polish up the unfinished sections of the beta. Indigo is another interesting example, being a recomp of a ROM hack, an especially large one in this case, as the mod aims to create a full-on sequel to the 64 Zeldas. In the future, Wiseguy aims for ROM hacks like this to be converted into mods for the base game's recomp, rather than use standalone launchers. And of course, the previously announced Banjo and Ocarina ports are still coming, along with a few others that are still under wraps for now. I'll stress again that while these recomps are playable, the devs don't want you to play them until they're ready. I'm showing them just to make it clear that the tool is indeed bearing fruit. A lot of the developers creating recomps are actively involved in the decompilation efforts for those games, because for the first time they have a path to creating the ports themselves. Those developers are knowledgeable enough to know what's broken in the recomp and will fix it before a release. Most devs also won't release until high frame rates and wide ratios are working, which is hands-on work that is very specific to each individual game. Wiseguy's own recomps were placed on the back burner so he could develop a new modding framework. This, more than anything else, has been the main bottleneck. Rather than have people disseminate a bunch of incomplete ports that may or may not get updated to the final spec later, he chose to fully develop the Recomp Foundation before putting out tutorials and documentation, so Recomp devs have mostly been working in the dark for the past year. The mod support took much longer than expected, but the effort was worth it, as it's shooting out of the gate with numerous mods already. When I said in the announcement last year that a Recomp's code is not readable, some took it to mean that it's not moddable. Not so. If a decomp exists, it can be used to write patches that alter the recomp code as if it were the source. If a decomp doesn't exist, a modder can start one and decompile just the code that they need. Using the Recomp's debug tools can help identify the target functions relatively quickly. There is also the older-fashioned ROM hacking method of editing the MIPS assembly code. This is what I assume that looks like.
Spider stole my codes!
However the patch is made, it's packaged as a small NRM file that end users simply drop into a folder. These can add to or replace existing code. Some mods don't alter any code themselves, but rather add new libraries or dependency systems for other mods, like this one that enables universal text replacement. Another allows gameplay information to be synced over a network. This isn't a multiplayer mod, but a framework that could be used to make one, among other things. An in-game UI allows you to toggle the mods and customize various options, and eventually the plan is that you'll actually be able to download them through this interface. Every line of code in the game can be modified through this system. In the event that two mods patch the same function, a warning will be issued and one or the other will have to be disabled before starting. This allows a large number of mods to be stacked without fear of conflicts. Assets can also be replaced, though only through code mods at the moment. This isn't as efficient as the RTX Remix style render stage replacement that's coming later, but the Recomp's internal modding support is enough for simple model upgrades. This makes Recomp the most flexible modding platform that N64 has ever had. Extensive code edits like this would normally require building a new EXE with all the changes incorporated. 2Ship works this way, absorbing mods into its main repo to be included in the next version update. Mario 64 split major revisions off into different forks. A builder tool allows users to customize a mod list and then compile their own custom EXEs, but the process is failure-prone and full of bugs. The major leap Recomp makes is that any user can swap mods in and out of the default EXE arbitrarily. To install one, you just open the mods tab and drag the file in, whether it's the NRM itself or a zip.
Enough jibber jabber, here are the demos!
One of the biggest current mods is the randomizer. If you've ever used a randomizer before, you'll have the general idea. All of the gear locations have been swapped, and you'll have to work through the map in new, unpredictable ways, often creatively leveraging the few abilities you have to overcome obstacles. It's subtle, but a few mechanics have been tweaked to facilitate this. The most challenging form of the mod is the online multiplayer version via Archipelago, a project connecting randomizers for various games together. Instead of gear, you'll find archipelagos and chests, which unlock an item in a different player's game. The goal is to cooperate to unlock one another's items until you can beat all 4 dungeon bosses. When stuck, a hint system reveals which players have which of your items, so you can make or receive requests about where to go and which events to tackle next. It is by far the most chaotic time I've ever had with the game, and I consider it a more fun type of remix than something like the Master Quest, or Tears of the Kingdom. You know what, I'm not sneaking it in anymore. Tears of the Kingdom. Come at me, I want you to do it. Hit me, hit me, hit me! A numbitude of changes are available for Link's movement. Link can now walk while aiming, allowing entire sections to be played in first person. This also applies to riding Epona, who can be steered while the bow is active. This really comes in handy during the ranch invasion. Epona has her own control overhaul that replaces the tank-style turning with more responsive, direction-based movement. It's hard to communicate by video alone, but cornering is far more nimble, and the mod provides options to tweak the turning radius to your liking. In the future, Schmitty plans to make the bunny hood also apply to Epona's speed, and make her less prone to full stops on small obstacles. The original barred using normal masks unless Link was in human form, but now any mask can be swapped at any time, like in the remake. Another mod allows Link to use items that were previously limited to human form only, like bombs and sticks, which may reduce the number of times you need to change back and forth. In a later version, Zora Link will be able to use the hookshot and bow, which should really streamline Great Bay Temple. The Razor Sword can be made a permanent item, with custom dialogue reflecting the change. It's still shorter and weaker than the Gilded Sword, but at least the design can have some time to shine now instead of immediately getting reforged. Most cutscenes can be skipped, and the game can be made to boot straight to the file selection. A song skip mod allows bypassing ocarina performances with a button press, and also allows movement during elegy statue creation. The 3DS-style Song of Double Time is also an option, enabling warps to specific hours of the day. Doom! It's Doom! You can really play it. Doom! Doom! Proxy has created a suite of mods for breaking almost every rule in the game. Cheats can be activated for things like infinite items, zero bomb cooldowns, levitation, hookshot extension, and hookshotting onto any surface. The combination of these mods allows sequence breaks and out-of-bounds exploration that should be really interesting to curious players. You can also restore the Ocarina of Time mechanics that Majora removed, like tapping B to swim faster. The draw distance can be greatly improved, so that the game no longer culls relatively close enemies and objects. All letterboxing can be removed if the black bars bothered you. The hookshot reticle can also be applied to the bow if you want more intuitive aiming. A Z targeting fix addresses some obscure turning quirks. Actions like walking or spinning would cause the camera swivel to cancel, but with this mod the pivots are smooth all the way through. It also corrects stick direction errors that occurred in certain conditions. And you can dab while exploding if you're into that. Tired of playing as Zelda? Wish you could play as anyone, anything other than Zelda. Well, now you can be Mario. I'm not saying the name because they'll come after me. It is a lot of fun to bend Termina to your will with unprecedented, mustachioed agility. There's a lot more planned for this one before it can release, but definitely keep an eye out for it.
Spaghetti.
Fans of trash are in for some trash, as you can play as America's own Superman. And who doesn't like America? You can play like never before with the caped oh boy. Oh no. And finally there's the custom texture feature. RT64 has very advanced support that leaves emulators in the dust, one of the key advantages being a complete lack of stutter. Textures use the fast DDS format and are packed in an RTZ container that improves speed slightly further. Taken with the Recomp's lack of shader compilation stutter, the difference in smoothness is profound, and as a bonus the pack takes up only 3.5 GB now versus 18 on Glide N64. DDS files include MIP maps, progressively lower resolution versions of the texture, which are used to reduce shimmering and aliasing on distant surfaces. Dario cleverly took advantage of these to also reduce pop-in. Pack creators can run a tool that compiles the lowest resolution MIPs from every texture into a cache file that loads at startup. For my pack, this is under 100 megabytes. In the event that a DDS can't load fast enough, the texture falls back on the low MIP cache. This means that instead of briefly seeing the default texture, you'll see a crude version of the HD design, which makes the load less noticeable. Though loading is so fast, it's hard to even get footage of this feature in action. The mod system also allows for alternate pack versions. The most common criticism of the pack is that HD textures don't always suit low poly objects, so I could bundle a 2x native res pack that gives more subtle GameCube-like upgrades. After installing the zip, the packs would show up as separate mods in the list, and the user could control which they want using the toggles. This could also be used for partial overwrites, where say an add-on pack could replace just the HUD with alternate textures. The only downside to texture support at the moment is that there isn't really a dumping feature, so you would still have to use an emulator to get the base textures. My texture pack is now available for both Recomp and 2-Ship, so you can use it with whichever version you prefer. 2-Ship's texture support came along more recently, so Ghostly Dark ported his reloaded version of the pack to it while I was working on Recomp. The pack itself has seen a lot of updates and replacements since the last release. There's a new 7K world map, which I think I can claim is the most accurate and complete view of Termina there's ever been. The original was clearly from an early stage of development, and the designs and placements of objects don't match the final game. The texture pack had been using heavily altered art from the remake, but it was very low detail and also didn't match the world well enough. So I cobbled the actual 3D stages together and used those as a guide to paint the new map in Rebel by hand. No AI bullshit. The project surpassed 32 gigabytes of RAM use, and even after upgrading to 64 it still crashed, so I had to finish it across half a dozen split files. You're welcome, by the way. Here's a comparison of how the new map fares against the previous version. The map comes with a collection of enhancements courtesy of Daniel Ribb, who I can't thank enough for the work he put into this. The first mod moves the markers to the new and more accurate positions, and that change is applied to the owl statue selection as well. You can verify the statues are in the right places yourself with a new zoom feature, which lets you take full advantage of the 7K res to inspect anything you want. The map also gains a real-time tracking ability. Before, Link's icon would only appear on the marker of a given area. Now it can reflect your current position with lily pad level accuracy. This was made possible by conforming the mini-maps to the world map, then using that transform data to correctly place the marker. The system is sophisticated enough that it even considers elevation, so the marker won't go off course at different heights. As a bonus, Daniel also fixed the jittering arrow movement on the mini-map while working on this. The map will dynamically update as you make progress. Clearing an area of its curse results in the map permanently reflecting that achievement, but the feature can be disabled in the options if you'd rather keep the cursed map. There's also an option to break the overlays up for more granular changes. If you'd prefer the map to always reflect the current state of things, Going back and forth depending on whether the swamp is poisoned, the smithy hearth is lit, the ranch boulder is destroyed, you can do that. Daniel also fixed another item long on my wish list, turning the pixel-filled stars into textures. The original blocky stars look horrible on a modern screen, and I imagine even the people who don't like HD packs will probably appreciate this. The requirements for the texture pack are very light, and as long as you have 2 GB of VRAM you should be fine. Wiseguy was even able to get a stable 60 FPS with a GT 730. Not every fix available on an emulator has been ported yet, but there's nothing stopping the rest from coming over now. 2Ship still offers a larger collection of mods, but the Recomp has a stark advantage in the speed of mod creation and installation. I floated several ideas to mod creators and numerous times saw them finish the mod and pass the NRM to me within an hour. Both ports are doing great, but Wiseguy's modding system deserves special recognition for the extreme polish and care put into it. The payoff for the long wait is that now every future Recomp can potentially have this same level of customization. I consider the rapid influx of quality mods to be a strong validation of the new system, and it will only get better once RT64 adds render stage model swapping, material maps, and RT. There will be one final overhaul of the texture pack to take advantage of those features, and maybe then I can finally play a different goddamn game. This release, combined with the slate of upcoming ports and the advent of recomps for other consoles, affirms that the future for this method is very bright. Now, here's some weird shit you may or may not know about. The positions of the stars are determined by the file name you set at startup. This one's been out there for a while, but still neat. The lily pads in Woodfall Temple have a unique response to bombs, which the player will never normally see since they won't have them the first time through. They also die if they try to eat Goron Link. 2 of the dirt patches in Dompe's segment are useless. They never spawn the flames, don't even have the actors to do so, and are a sheer waste of time. They really wanted you to have to go up the ladders, I guess. The Gorman mask may seem useless, but it will actually stop the brothers from attacking during the wagon raid. The Deku Scrub falls under the pirate's line of sight when shielding, which you can exploit to hide in plain sight in lieu of the stone mask. If you play the Oath to Order with only 3 giants active, they briefly appear to stop the moon, only for it to resume moving a moment later and kill them. Few people know this one, but with the Fierce DD Anywhere hack, you can perform a spin attack while removing the mask and get a super-powered blast that will blow Tingle's clothes off and leave him in a thong. I don't know why they put this in there. No! God, no!